Okay, Castool is part of a company called Exco Technologies Limited. We're a publicly traded company on the Toronto Stock Exchange in Canada, and we have 15 companies doing about $200 million per year in sales. We service various industries. We have 3 companies that manufacture extrusion dies. We have 5 companies that do interior systems for automotive, and 3 companies that do die casting molds, mainly transmissions and engine blocks. Castool services the tooling side with the exclusion of the dies for both die cast and extrusion. Well, our business started as making tooling components, and as it progressed over the last 20 years, we found out that the tooling components couldn't be looked at individually, and it was much better to look at a system and create a series of components that interact with each other. And by doing that, we could get much better tooling life, we could get much better productivity, and at the end of the day, reduce the customer's costs as well. We only sell to people that extrude aluminum alloys and also die cast aluminum alloys in magnesium. And we basically look at everything but the die and everything but the mold. So for extrusion, you basically buy an extrusion press, and then you buy an extrusion die from a supplier, and all the tooling that connect the extrusion press to the die, Castool focuses on. And our focus is taking in temperature in the last few years, so we're taking basically control or responsibility from the temperature of the billet right through to the cooling of the profile after it exits the die. We're showing a complete tooling system, which includes a thermally regulated shot sleeve, lubrication system, vacuum system, and plunger tip system. And all these components work together, and they have to work together. So at the show, you can walk around and you see companies that manufacture shot sleeves, you see lots of companies that do vacuum systems and do plunger tips, but there's no other supplier here that is taking a system perspective. And only by taking a system perspective can you be accountable for any outcome. Everyone else here can blame the other person for their lack of success, where we take total responsibility to come up with a solution that works and has a good return on investment for the customer. Both in extrusion and die cast. I guess we can look at it a couple of ways. We want to complete our system for both industries. In the extrusion industry right now, we manufacture die heaters, we manufacture thermally controlled containers, we do quench systems, we're now doing robotics so we can actually move products between our systems. And the only other product that we have to touch now is the billet, so we can make sure the billet is regulated to the right temperature before extrusion. The product after that is a visual optimizing system that we're bringing forward, and it'll basically link all of our products together and empower the press operator so that he can optimize his production. On the die casting side, we're virtually doing the same thing. We're seeing the economy come back, but the reset that's happened in the last 18 to 24 months has probably been one of the best things that ever happened to Castool. Because people have to make change. If you do the same thing the same way, you get the same results. And it was proven that those results aren't competitive in this global economy. So Castool had the door opened to be able to go into many companies because, one, they had time, and secondary, they have a need to go in and help their productivity. So our I would say customer base or market share has grown exponentially in the last year. I think they're looking more at sustainability. Where in the past, a lot of these companies were owned by financial organizations that were highly levered. I think people are getting back to basics. Die casters are worrying more about die casting today. Extruders are worrying more about extrusion. And sustainability is coming into the equation, which I don't think has for a long time. By all means, I would say all of our customers tend to be partners. When we take on a customer, we work hand in hand with them, right from the education through to the final results. So they end up being, very close relationships. We've recently made a relationship with Böhler and Uddeholm, the steel companies, because they don't have the ability to actually educate customers. They tend to build whatever the customer asks them to build. So they have no control over their success or failure. So they seem to be taking on what we're doing, and we're trying to come up with a partnership. We also work very closely with Ube in Japan, who manufactures both die casting machines and extrusion presses. And again, they've done a great job in manufacturing presses, but they've never taken responsibility for extrusion. And by working with ourselves, they can actually help their customers become better extruders instead of just selling a piece of equipment. I would say, as far as being a global supplier of tooling systems for extrusion and die cast, we don't have any direct competition. We have a lot of competition with people that sell components and commodities, but there isn't anyone else that's put together systems similar to ours, and there's no one educating the customers. I'm a believer in logic, which would say that a company like Toyota, if they have a production system that works really good in one area, they should use that everywhere. So I think a lot of the global die casters and extruders are going to find sole suppliers that are accountable and responsible for their equipment and use them everywhere where they do die cast and extrusion. And that's a big move, because historically the Europeans have sold to Europeans, North Americans have sold to North America, and there hasn't been a lot of cross-marketing. My company, we're 94% export from Canada. And we're basically working all through Asia, through United States, South America, Central America, and Europe. And I would say those three markets are quite even as far as sales. So I would say we're a truly global supplier, and we don't have any other companies, again, that are global. They tend to be either European, North American, or Asian, and they tend to build products versus systems.